What's going on, Crypto Paradise fam, friends, and degens around the world? It's your boy Nate, and we are back with another awesome interview for you guys. Today, I am joined by Marco Santini. He is a renowned impact artist who travels the world creating interactive collaborative art pieces. Marco now has not one, but two pieces of art permanently on display in the Bitcoin Museum in Nashville, Tennessee. The second of which I was lucky enough to be able to be a part of and contribute to at the Bitcoin Nashville conference just a few weeks back. Marco, welcome to Crypto Paradise. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much. Great meeting you a few weeks ago. Great to reconnect here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, we got to chat a little bit in Nashville. And you have a really amazing story. You weren't always an artist. In fact, you became an artist relatively recently. You want to take us through and kind of give us a little bit of your history and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been an artist at heart. I just didn't really understand that you could make a business out of it or make money of it or just really kind of do what you love. In that sense, I studied linguistic anthropology at Brown. I was really into the sports world for a while. I worked with NBC as an NBC page at the Olympics in Torino 2006 and Beijing 2008. Worked in marketing and branding and selling other people's ideas and creating, interesting campaigns and it was really fun and creative, and I was in the thick of it in New York City, but I just felt like I was helping brands I didn't necessarily believe in, didn't necessarily believe were changing the world for the good rather than just trying to make an extra buck. And so it was really difficult. I was made it pretty high up the ladder of to strategy director at this major firm, and I just like, this is not for me. As fun and creative and as good at it as I was, I just felt like there was something bigger. And so I took a really big leap of faith. I ended up pivoting to tutoring and mentoring middle school, high school, college students, trying to help them with everything from college prep, resume, getting into college, getting their internships, getting jobs, just kind of the whole works. And what that allowed me to do was have the time, because it was very, very few hours, but higher paying. It opened up my schedule to really kind of try to double down on art. I had no idea how to get into the art world, not even know I wanted to even be in it. I just felt this like innate uh, curiosity to explore different creative ideas. And for me, it really all started with gift giving. I was in the city. I was probably like 25, just getting my stuff figured out. And I realized I was, spending money on people's birthday parties or housewarmings or weddings. And rather than buying gifts that, maybe they like or maybe they don't like, I decided I was going to invest in myself. And I challenged myself to create something really unique and really special for these friends of mine. And so I would try to figure out what are their interests, what do they really like, and it was pushing my creativity in different ways. It was trying to really help me value my creativity, the different methods and mediums I was working with, and it also tried to help me figure out how to value not only my time but my pricing. And so I gave a lot of gifts, a lot of friends, and it kind of rambled on in this beautiful way from there, where they were like, "Oh, I really like what you did for this friend," or they would post it on social media, and it started this idea of, okay, now I can understand how to value this piece, or the size, bigger is more expensive and more time is more expensive. And it was really a beautiful kind of way to figure out on my own how to make it, because I definitely wasn't mature enough to go into art school. I feel like art school is beautiful and can really help you refine your craft, but what I've heard, at least, a lot of the negativity and the critique, I definitely wasn't mature enough to hear that. I believe that creative freedom is kind of one of the highest callings as an artist and as a person, and being able to instill that in yourself has really been helpful for this beautiful journey.
Well, conviction is a major topic we talk about in Web3. I got to imagine, I got a chance to briefly meet your lovely wife. I know you have a family as well. So making that jump from a stable job, 9 to 5 type job into what, is stereotypically, that we all talk about the struggling artist kind of role. I'm sure that's something that took immense amounts of conviction to be able to want to make that leap and get in there full time. What are some of the lessons you think that you learned, coming up in kind of the starting out that struggling artist type role that apply or could be maybe applicable to some of the people watching now that are getting their start in crypto, whether that is as a Web3 artist or as a trader or as a project founder?
I look at it, I love that question, because I think I would look at it from as like a struggling artist to like an abundant artist, but I think it's really relevant to any field. I think if you are a starving entrepreneur, starving artist, a starving investor, you take almost any opportunity and you're less willing to say no and you're more willing to figure it out. And I think there's good and bad in that because it pushes you to grow, but it also may push you to do things that are below you or not as well paid or not, really valuing your time. I think as you start to build up your chops, build up your resume, build up your skills, people start recognizing quality, people start recognizing talent, and you're more available to say no to projects that come in. Like I had a project recently come in, it wasn't a good fit. I ended up recommending a friend, and now he's going to be doing something awesome. He was super grateful, and I was like, it wasn't right for me, but I knew it was right for someone else. And so I think also just this mindset of not being as jealous, not being as frustrated by all these opportunities of what other people are doing, but looking at it from this abundance mindset of where we can all be winning together. It's not a zero-sum game. I can be rooting for other artists without not rooting for myself. And I think that just makes me feel lighter and happier and overall more confident in the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. I think you touched on a couple of the biggest mistakes that people make in this industry when they're starting out. I certainly made them myself. One being, don't look at what everybody else is doing. And that's something in
So
any
true.
work that you're gonna do. If we get too caught up in not necessarily jealousy, but seeing other people's success and letting that rather than inspire us to make us feel less adequate or that we're not doing well enough. We all start out at different places. So we end up kind of chasing the hype. We chase this project, then we chase this meme, then we chase this NFT. We never end up getting anywhere instead of finding something that we can, really fall in love with and get good at in the space. So kind of, going deep rather than going, broad there as well.
I think it's also harder in the crypto space before that because it's so transparent. You can see the pricing of things. You can see how much, has been made. It's a little bit easier to potentially feel that jealousy of like, oh, I missed out, or feel a FOMO. But, I think once you've matured enough to realize if you're focusing, I believe the more you know yourself, the more you can focus on yourself, the more confident you can be with what you're doing and not let the kind of ulterior motives and kind of external stories influence. You can be aware of them and appreciate them, but not let it really kind of get into your, the walls of your mental health.
Absolutely. And that's something that's huge. This is an industry where the FOMO and the FUD, and it's an emotional roller coaster constantly. 3 weeks ago, everybody was up, we are feeling great. And then Bitcoin crashed like, what was it, 25, 30% in the matter of like 3 days. The world's ending. So being able to maintain your emotional and your mental health in an industry like this is so key. And I know that's something that's you're really passionate about, that you talk about a lot, and you with your art. Tell us a bit about kind of some of what you do and how the mental health aspect fits into what you do when it comes to as an artist.
Yeah, it's really important to me. I feel that by surrounding yourself with positive words and bright colors, you can improve your mental health. That's a big part of my artwork, but I also feel that mental health is a conversation. So a big part of my artwork is incorporating people into the creative process to ask them a question, to kind of share space with them and hear them. I think that active listening is something that's really incredibly valuable. And, like when we met at the Bitcoin conference, kind of doing a similar thing, but I like to ask people a specific question. If it's mental health or charity related, what does mental health mean to you? What does it mean to feel safe? What does it feel to be home? And collecting these thoughts and these words and putting them in the painting to show kind of the visual vibe of an event, of a space, of a charity, really makes people feel seen and heard. It makes them feel more part of the event. They're more likely to photograph and share it and just feel uplifted by it. And I feel that that's one of the beautiful things about artwork. I think that good art is about storytelling. I think great art is about connecting. So you can have a really cool story to tell, but does it resonate with people? And I feel I'm bringing in the stories of many people to resonate with everyone. And I think it's really beautiful how we connected in that sense. I was brought down to the Bitcoin conference. I was asking people, no judgment, no fear. What does Bitcoin mean to you? And I know it's a very obviously Bitcoin centric crowd, but hearing the responses and literally asking people in the moment who are wearing Bitcoin head to toe, what does Bitcoin mean to you? And then they pause. They're like, what does Bitcoin mean to me? And I was like, it brought up so many unique conversations to hear, I'd say a good spectrum, maybe not the full spectrum. It would have been very different if I was standing out on the street asking people what Bitcoin meant versus, in
Sure.
the conference center. But to me, it's about learning. To me, it's about giving people a voice and space. And it's so important to what I do. I can't see myself creating without it.
That's awesome. I know the exhibit you put together at Bitcoin Nashville, that was one of those things that really did make you stop and think. You know, you're so used to just, we could absorb this all day, every day, crypto, crypto, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. We never, really thought, well, why, what does this matter to me? Why is this so important? Why do we have, tens of thousands of people gathering here? Why are there, former presidents and presidential candidates and some of the, top political and non-political, influential thinkers in the world all coming to this one spot to talk about Bitcoin? And it kind of helped get you out of that mindset of just like the everyday grind and actually look back at like, what is this? What impact is it having on not only on the world, but on me personally? So that was super
And
cool.
to that point, I think it's important to notice. I mean, I talked to over 300 people at the event, at least the number of responses I had painted in the mural. The biggest response was freedom, the idea of owning your own money, not being, having government interference. So I think there is a sense of freedom and fear that kind of comes side by side of like, Bitcoin is giving me the freedom to do this. I am fearful of secondary actors and all this stuff. But I think another part of that was the family, the community aspect. That was probably the second biggest theme of, seeing people who believe, feeling like they are at home, understanding people who are like-minded, who are working on similar projects, making them feel part of something was kind of another major theme. And I think what was beautiful specifically about this interactive mural was that I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't forcing people to download something or to take, like, it was just a natural space for people to appreciate, to interact, to talk. And it just brought about so much conversation. It really became, this mini hub of where people were getting together and tons of people. I mean, the most photographed piece I've probably ever done over a 3-day period, just constantly photographing, constantly tagging. And I feel like that really speaks to the testament of like collective creativity.
Absolutely, man. That was, again, I think one of the center focal points for a lot of people that went to that conference. There's all the different booths and people selling stuff, but your art piece really stood out. I think it's something that everybody took time to stop and check out, whether or not they it talked to you or not. You always had a crowd around you there at the mural there. These murals, by the way, are one of the I think you have kind of two big things that you're known for right now in the art space. And these murals are one. They take you all around the world. Tell us a little bit about why you've traveled around the world and what you've done or some of the places you visited.
It's been amazing. I think back to my younger self, looking at me now, thinking I'm traveling around the world. My art is sustaining my life. I'm in museums. I'm sold at Sotheby's. Like, my younger self would be in awe, like, that I've been able to accomplish this in less than 6 years. And it's just really a beautiful testament. Like, I think it's important to look back, celebrate the wins, big or small. But specifically to your question, I feel that collectors, brands, individuals really have this idea of collective creativity really resonates with people. And so I create in spaces where I ask people a specific question. I bring all those answers together and create something that we are all part of. And it's kind of this shared moment. So it's taken me to India, Puerto Rico, Turks and Caicos, planning a few trips to Europe. I've painted in Tulum. It's really been amazing. And I think I've, when I interviewed people a few months ago, and I like to ask people on my little YouTube series, what does success mean to you? And I've gotten a lot of different answers in terms of balancing mind, body, soul, and doing what you love. But what really sticks out with me with the people interview was him saying, success is not superficial. It's much deeper than that. Success is really doing what you're meant to do and only you can do. And when I had this idea of creating collaboratively with people and bringing people into the conversation, so many other artists are like, I need to stay in my flow, I can't be interrupted to talk to people and go back. Like, but to me it's like it didn't matter. Like, I needed to find a way to make it work because it was so, I saw the power in it. I saw people reacting and just like I said, I think connecting is such an important part of building community, of building awareness. And it's just, I feel very, very lucky that I get hired to go talk to people and create art that we can all appreciate. And it's just, it's really a true blessing.
Well, I think that's another huge crossover between the art world and the Web3 space right now. We've been saying that something that, memes are an interesting part of our culture now, for good and bad. But I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned and that we've been talking to a lot of the projects that we mentor and work with and partner with is that memes have taught us that the most important success metric in Web3 right now is community. more than anything else. If you don't have a community, you're not going to sustain a project. And you know, again, see, you kind of mentioned the same thing with the art world, like going out and meeting these people, building these communities around these art pieces. And you work with some unique communities. So most, tell us a bit about kind of the charity aspect of these murals.
So specifically with the Web3, I felt it was important when I was creating my recent signature series that I wanted to have a communal component to it. Charity and schools are really, really important to me. And when I approached Maker's Place, who was working with me, they were a little bit hesitant to say, "You want to paint a mural anywhere in the world for someone who buys an NFT of yours?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do that." And they thought it was a little crazy. And to me, it's honestly been the most rewarding component because there is, you know, a collector who gets to own a really awesome NFT. They get to own the physical rare piece signed by the artist, and they get to choose a school or charity anywhere in the world. And to me, making these kids who may not have as much access to art or just showing them that the art is a possibility. Like, I think of art as a giant spectrum. It can be a hobby, it can be professional, it can be anywhere in between. And showing people at a young age that creativity is possible, that even just getting in flow and finding your own voice can be so powerful and uplifting that maybe your parents or your teachers can is something I'm very grateful that my parents helped me find at an early age. You know, my parents wouldn't ask me what I was doing. They would ask me why I was doing, and I felt like it was so crucial for like getting me to think about what I was doing, but also just supporting me if I wanted to throw paint or mess around and mix these things together and see what happened. I just feel like that you know, freedom, like I said, is the biggest theme at the Bitcoin conference, but I think personal freedom, creative freedom is just something that we all strive for. And I think showing kids that that is an option really can have beautiful consequences in their life. And I hope to inspire them in any way I can.
That's beautiful. I've done quite a bit of traveling myself to, you know, some second and third world countries, and you see some of these places and meet some of these people, and they always leave an impact on you. Of all the places you've traveled, has there been any that have had a major impact on your art, or is there any places that have kind of changed your perspective that have reflected in your work?
I say every piece I do leaves a part of me. There's this term Meraki, which means it means leaving a part of yourself in every piece. Like I don't sign my piece until I know that I'm fully comfortable that it is a, you know, Marco Santini piece. Like I want to stand behind it and know it. And I think the same, it's really a two-way street because every time I work with the community, they make me feel, they make me think differently. Working in India 2 years ago, I painted, I did 2 weeks in India and I was like, I'm going to paint as many days as I could. I did like 8 days in a row of creativity every single day, painting at this inclusion summit where we're trying to bring about awareness for people with differences and bring them into workforce and showing that they have beautiful power and capabilities in very, very different ways. But as part of my activation with this charity, I ended up staying at a night at this Snakehead Horror Foundation. It's a community for children with autism. And I led one of my interactive art sessions with these students, and it was so powerful and so it was so difficult and yet so inspiring at the same time to see how they were, you know, teaching them how to use spray paint, seeing their faces light up when we were dancing and painting at the same time and creating a beautiful mural in their space, and just knowing that they may interact with it differently or don't they're in the, you know, in the middle of it's Bangalore is a large city, but they're really on the you know, off site of that, and it's just so it's not every day that they're going to see art or see these bright colors, and just seeing how they responded to it really left a mark in my heart of just realizing the power of art, the power of bright color, the power of positivity, of sharing a smile. It doesn't hurt to be nice. It doesn't hurt to share what is important to you and to help other people. And I think, you know, convincing people of that and in this community and showing how powerful we all can be when we come together is just something that really inspires me and is like something I want to do no matter if I'm, you know, making money or not. Like it's something that just it uplifts me, and I find so much more joy when I'm giving than I'm getting.
Well, I love that you mentioned adversity in there, that, you know, working with these kids wasn't necessarily the easiest thing, but it was one of the most rewarding sides of it. I think it's, again, another great lesson for everybody in crypto. Everybody wants that, you know, get rich quick scheme, that, you know, quick paycheck. We learn the most, we grow the most from adversity. So, you know, if you're out there, if you're watching this, your bags are down. If you got rugged, you're struggling with whatever aspect of, you know, your work within Web3 right now, that's what's going to make you stronger. That's what's going to teach you the most. That's what's going to make you more successful in the future. So you don't let it get you down. Embrace it. You know, learn from the lessons and move forward and take the positivity where you can.
Totally. Whenever I'm down, I do one of two things. I either try to learn something new, or, get my mind off of myself, or I try to help someone else, family, friends, charity. Like those two things are for me the surefire way to get out of a slump.
That's great. Yeah. Give to get, right? The more you give away, more, the more you're going to get back in return. It's one of those, we don't give because we want to get back, but you naturally, you can't, the emotional balance, from that, I can't outgive the giver, right?
It's
So I
true.
love that. I love that. Cool. Well, so the other big aspect I think of your art, that probably what you're most famous for is and then correct if I'm pronouncing this wrong, illuminism.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, so in one interview, tell us a bit about illuminism, but in one of your interviews, I heard you mention an investor said that illuminism is somewhere between legal and illegal, and that's one of the things that made him want to invest in it the most, because it made it feel like it had so much potential. And I just love that. I was like, that's crypto, somewhere between. That's the current state of our market, somewhere between illegal and illegal. So I just love that line. So tell me a bit. What is illuminism?
So, illuminism is the idea of objectively reading a book or magazine cover to cover, trying to understand the focus, the theme of the work, and then cutting it up to create a totally new work with that piece. And so, more specifically, taking a book, for example, signed by Basquiat, very, very expensive, very, very rare, but I believe it's collecting dust on a bookshelf, not being appreciated for what it is. Maybe you open it once or twice a year if you're lucky. So rather than leaving on the bookshelf, I am reading it, understanding it, and cutting it up, creating a new work. I call it this cross-generational collaboration, really a visual remix, because it's signed by him, it's signed by me. I'm creating a piece that you can put on your wall, not on your bookshelf. You can actually appreciate. And in that sense, it is, somewhere between illegal and legal, because I'm using a book that's signed by someone else. I'm using their works, but I am very much doing it in a way to honor and respect this creator, to understand why are they so iconic that we're still talking about them today? Why are they still valuable years and years after their death? And trying to understand that, but in a way to kind of translate that into a more modern idea, more modern aesthetic. So with many of these pieces, I also create a digital artwork, either ordinal or NFT, to try to understand what that creator might be creating today if they were alive. And so it's more neon colors, it's more animation, it's more, trying to translate their ideas for a 21st century.
Digital space is blowing up right now. I've got some digital art sitting around my room here. I need to get my background set up a little bit better, but it's all kind of piled up back there. But looking forward to having some visual art in the background soon. I think maybe this is a good time transition. I know you have a few slides. Give people like a little bit of a visual representation, some idea of what it is you're doing with these rare books and magazines.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Let's see here. Can you see my screen or no? Let me start from the beginning here. Uh, so
I see a couple on the wall back behind you, but I think the presentation will give people a little more up close view and kind of a better representation of what it is that you're doing. Awesome.
Yeah,
Here we
so this
go.
is, the idea is called the Signature Series. This was my first real major NFT launch with Maker's Place. Basically taking really rare signed books and cutting them up, creating new artworks out of them. So on the left, you see a book signed by Liechtenstein. Only see the cover. The signature is hidden within there. It's on your shelf. I read through it. I understand it. I cut it up, try to keep it as close to what it was when he actually signed it. And then on the right, seeing the NFT that actually animates, but you can kind of see the more color, the
Mhm.
more brightness to it. And I got this in front of Marcus Fox, who's a global managing director at Christie's. He's kind of awed by it. He said never seen anything like it before. He called it a new category, and that was what made me think of the idea of illuminism. I know illuminated texts historically were really beautiful texts that had, light and gold leaf and all this stuff, but I really like this idea of like appreciating it for the visual aspect of it. This is a Basquiat book, 5 figures just to acquire the actual book. But to me, there's so much beauty in all these ideas, taking his works and rearranging, the visual kind of connection between them. Like there's a piece over here that, I'm creating this in my studio in New York City. Way deep in the book is this image of Statue of Liberty. I'm not cutting that out and moving it to the front. I'm keeping the binding intact. So it's not collage. I'm
Wow.
keeping that binding intact and cutting out all the pages in front of it to create this window to show you exactly where it is. And it's signed by him. It's signed by me. You can appreciate it in this new way. I launched it at Art Basel Miami 2022 at Maker's Place at the Scope Fair, and just had some incredible success with the physicals and the digitals. This was the Frida Kahlo piece, the Henry Matisse piece, both selling within a few weeks of the opening. And to our earlier point, this really kind of opened me up to this, what does utility mean in the crypto space? And to me, I wanted it to be something that was really positive, really communal, and really driven as a communication line between myself and the buyer. So I know every single buyer of every single digital artwork I've ever sold. I think that might be a little bit more rare in this space, but I develop a connection. I really, really respect that. So to me, the utility for this series was anyone can choose a school or a charity anywhere in the world, and I'll paint a mural with the students for free. So this was one of the first ones in Puerto Rico. You can kind of see the transition of, I do this like paint by numbers background. I show the kids how to use spray paint. They help me paint it. And then I collect words. I ask them what's important to you, what inspires you. And when they see their paint on the wall, when they see their words on the wall, it makes them feel so connected to their space. They feel seen and heard. It really uplifts them in this beautiful way. I've done it all over, and I just really, I see the power of art. I see the power of change, of connection, and I want them to have this idea that they are capable of doing this or whatever they want to do. Just giving them kind of more hope on a creative lens. I think it's really, really beautiful, and it's kind of taken me on this beautiful, beautiful journey.
That's
And
amazing, man. I love that you build in the altruistic capitalism aspect to that it's not just about making money, that every single piece you do gives back in some way.
Yeah, thank you. It's been incredibly rewarding. It's been great for, I think, the people who've collected my work. I think they love my work, but I think they also love the idea of this, give back component just as much, which kind of sets it apart, I think, a little bit. And it's incredibly rewarding, whether it's photos or videos that they see of their final works, coming together, and what the kids say, and the teachers or principals or community leaders say. It's just it's doing good. And I feel like, one of the biggest problems with crypto, like you said, outside of being somewhere between legal and illegal, it just has like a bad PR problem. And like, I think that by doing good in this world and showing that there are positive results that can actually happen from crypto related exchanges is something that I think we can all benefit from. That also just shows like, here's something good happening from this, mystery box of creativity.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So what do you think in for, art's really merging into Web3? There's all kinds of artists from music to sculptors, painters, a wide variety of artists coming into Web3. What do you think are the most important aspects of Web3 for artists, whether that is a tool, a kind of an ethos? Why are Web3 and blockchain merging right now?
For me, I thought provenance was really super important to understand who owned my piece when, and that also tied to kind of, being able to pay royalties upon every future sale, seeing, buyers not necessarily take advantage of, but holding on to an artist work for a while, and then when they get big, selling it for way more than they maybe even had, and not having the actual artist benefit from that, I thought was a little bit unfair. So I love that aspect, even though it's kind of a little bit gray in terms of how often that's kept and the rules surrounding that. So I think that's what originally drew me to it. I do think there's a lot of parallels between digital art and photography. I know when photography was coming out, people were kind of questioning how important it was, and how it was seen as, this other art form and not true art. And I feel like great things, great new ideas challenge what art is. And I think digital art is very much doing that. I'm hoping that my illuminated books and magazines are also doing that. Like, you don't think of the book as art, but I'm still trying to kind of picture that, because I believe that there's beautiful visual essence to it. But specifically, I think digital art is doing that in a way like we've never seen before. And so I think there's a lot of appeal to uh, explore your own creative freedom. I think it's really easy for to be able to create something digitally, in the sense, not easy to create something great, but you don't have to have huge storage. You don't have to, you could easily, refresh or go back. And so I think the actual creative tools in the digital world allow anyone to just go and try an idea, and to explore, and to do different brushes or different colors or different. I think it lowers the bar for creativity, but while also making it more accessible. And I think that is just overall net beneficial for the world in general, having more people be creative, having more people explore, their inner voice.
So what do you think the future of Web3 art is? Do you see this becoming something that is mainstream, where every artist of whatever type, medium that they are, has some sort of blockchain component to it? Or where do you see this going?
I see it going more mainstream. I think it's becoming, well, I think it's becoming more mainstream despite what I read about fewer NFT wallet holders existing now than they were, I guess, a year ago. Um, I think creative freedom to me is being, I used to define success as being able to create what I want, when I want, wherever I want. And I think there's still an aspect of that. But for me now, I also think the idea of creative freedom, being able to create across mediums, whatever you want, is also really empowering. And so not just being limited to a paintbrush or to a sculpture or to, a spray paint can. I think digital art allows you to explore in a new way. And so I think we are going to see a majority of artists going on there. I think as crypto adoption becomes more powerful and also easier, until it's, the way of a Venmo in the US or a PayPal. I think it's getting there. It's still really, really tricky. Many of my collectors I've had to onboard onto the crypto process, and that wasn't easy, but I was willing to make that investment because I believe bringing people into the space is good for everyone. Um, but yeah, specifically to answer your question, I think that there is value and just new ideas that come from creating digital art. I think that we're all going to have our own digital footprint in some way, and I think that we are still very, very early, and there might even be more value given to people who are here now because of the more people that come on, the earlier and more rare those early creators were.
Absolutely. And I think again that applies to blockchain. If you're here now, so you might feel late. You're not. You're still early. Things are still building. We're still in the the early 2000s era of the internet, or the late 90s era of the internet. Just gotta have some faith and got some belief. So kind of back to the conviction argument from from earlier. A couple questions I personally wanted to ask you about this, having looked at some of your art with those books. How long does it take from start to finish? I imagine there is hours and hours and hours just in the actual physical work itself. But I know you said you're reading them back to front and coming up with ideas about the person and what they'd want to do today. Like, how long does one of these pieces of art take?
I used to say it would take about a 2 month process between sourcing the book, reading it cover to cover, taking all my notes, writing everything down. I would usually have really copious notes of like, okay, page 2 goes here, page 4, here's what I want to isolate on page 6. And then cutting it up. I still would leave some room for spontaneity, but then painting the final piece, creating the digital design, and then, being able to mint it. I'd say it was about 2 months. My most recent one for the Sotheby sale with Bitcoin Magazine was the fastest I'd ever done it. And that was, I'd say, a little bit less than 2 weeks all in. And that was because I had to meet a certain deadline, and I basically pushed everything to the side. I was like, okay, this can be my entire focus for all my waking hours because I need to fully understand this. And I felt kind of a beautiful burden in a sense, like cutting up the first ever Bitcoin magazine. It had so many interesting aspects historically, contextually, trying to explain what was happening at that time, seeing how many companies are still around versus how many had failed, and just valuing, showing how Bitcoin was just a few dollars, and the arguments for it then. I really wanted to get a full grasp of the context of the history to understand what to focus on, and I really kind of see it as a personal burden, personal journey that, like, I want to showcase the best of the best. I'm not just coming and being like, oh, this looks pretty, I'm going to cut this out, or this looks interesting, let's put this on the corner somewhere. It's like I want every piece to have a say in the overall story. And there's so much in the book or magazine, only a relatively few amount will make it onto the final image, even though every page is usually represented. I want to make sure that I am telling that story in as honest and as objective a way as possible.
So I understand that all of your pieces have an NFT aspect and an on-chain aspect to them, all these pieces you're creating. But what came first, crypto or art?
Art definitely came first. I mean, I came up with this idea during COVID. A lot of my live painting, interactive painting had died out, and I didn't go to art school. So I wanted to basically learn from the best. And as I started, digging a little bit deeper, I was just like, why are we still talking about these iconic artists today, many, many, many years after their death? And I started reading their bios, started watching their documentaries, and it really came down to, I'd say, three major aspects. One, they all had a creative crew or creative people around that they would run ideas off of, or sometimes steal ideas from. Secondly, I'd say probably most importantly, they all saw the world a little bit differently. They had a new style, a new medium, a new ism that really made them a little bit more unique compared to their counterparts. And third, they were met with a lot of pushback when they did debut this new style. And it took a lot of conviction and pushing forward to show this idea. And I felt very, very inspired by that. And before that, I was working specifically with magazines. for clients if they were featured in a magazine rather than just to have their article, framed with the cover. I would actually create an artwork out of that magazine where I would highlight their article, but I would show every single page of the magazine and the cover as like, this is what was happening in the magazine in that world when you got your press, when you're featured.
Cool.
And then I just started evolving that to, I wanted to collect these rare books because I couldn't go to museums, I couldn't go to galleries during COVID. I wanted to be in the presence of this greatness, and I wanted to feel what it was like. And because everything was closed, I was able to collect a few really rare books. And as I was reading them, as I was kind of, absorbing these ideas, I just felt I have to make artwork out of this. It's controversial, it's exciting, it's new. It's very risky when you're cutting up a really rare book and make that first cut. You can't go back. But to me, it was like it was so necessary. I just felt like it was something that was really, really special and risky, and definitely different from my prior art. Like I focused a lot on love and positivity, and I created this One Love logo, and I've painted at the United Nations and at weddings and charities, and I feel like there's a certain component to that. But in that creative freedom, being able to explore this new idea really led me in this new direction that has paid off both professionally and personally.
Where does blockchain, where does crypto fit into that picture?
So I think crypto fits into that in a few different ways. One, I do like the idea of opening up this kind of new crazy idea to a new and crazy audience. I felt like it was kind of, I felt the community aspect of that is kind of a more forward-thinking, more innovative mindset could relate more to what I was doing. I also, like I said, just love the idea of having each physical piece tied to an NFT where I would know through provenance, like this is the official first piece. This is who has my piece at this time. I feel like historically there has been issue with that, in the past. And if blockchain can solve that issue, if every artist had every piece with a QR chip, or physical piece with a QR chip or something, or every digital piece was obviously shown on the blockchain to have specific ownership at a specific time, it would alleviate a lot of the issues we have around uh, is this legit? Is this real? Who owned it at what time? Was this actually like, I feel like it makes it a lot easier from a organizational standpoint. And at its heart, I think that's what crypto can really add to the art community.
Well, and you're a bit ahead of your time too. Since then, Christie's, Sotheby's, they've all picked up on this as well. There's all sorts of stuff happening in the RWA space with art projects to do exactly what you're saying, whether it's to fractionalize art pieces, whether it's to verify the ownership of art pieces, not just with physical art, but musicians are doing things as well on blockchain. So ahead of your time, once again, man. Very, very cool. One of
We're
the
all ahead
most
of
One of the more unique pieces that I saw that you've done that I had to ask you about is whose swimming pool was that you painted? That is awesome, man.
Thank you. That was actually my swimming pool. I shout out to my wife for trusting me to create something like that. Yeah, I had this crazy idea and wanted to do it, and I wanted to test out a lot of concepts in terms of painting a wall and a mural is way, way different than painting a pool. You have layers of concrete, and you have the different varnish and lacquer and things that you coat it with, and then the water going over it and the chlorine. You have all these ideas. So it was really, to me, a very beautiful experiment to be able to swim. I'm a huge swimmer. I love swimming. Swimming yesterday, and it's just like so beautiful to be kind of consumed by your work in a physical, like you're interacting with your artwork in a beautiful way. And so swimming in that pool is awesome. But I've definitely figured out a few ways to master the process and tinker with it. So there definitely will be more on the horizon soon.
I was gonna say, if you're ready for another pool, I'll find one for you out here.
I would love to. Like I said, I'm trying to paint in all 50 states and as many countries as I can. I think I'm at like 13 or 14 states. And I think about 7 or 8 countries. But yeah, our art is, I think art has the power to transcend language barriers. And I think it really brings us all together in a beautiful way. I've seen that the power of artwork and being part of that conversation just excites me so much that I'm on this journey, and I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. And I feel really empowered by, the people I meet and how I'm able to connect with them in this beautiful way.
I love it, man. I hope we can get you out to Vietnam sometime and get you doing some painting out here.
Would love that.
Well, cool. Marco, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a fascinating interview. I hope that all of our viewers enjoyed it as well. It was great meeting you in Nashville. Again, appreciate you taking time out of your day to hop on here with me and tell your story. Where can people find you online?
So I focus mostly on the Instagram space pre crypto. So underscore Marco underscore Santini was really my big one. But I've recently transitioned over to the X space as I was told I needed to, and I'm starting to
Yep.
get into Discord and all the crypto stuff. But yeah, Marco Santini art is my X handle. I am enjoying the learning curve here and just trying to
Oh
connect
yeah.
with as many people as possible.
Nice, man. Well, if people are interested in picking up some of your artwork, where can they find that? Is that all online, or is that strictly through Sotheby's, or where can they find some of
Yeah,
your pieces?
so my website, marco-santini.com, has a lot of pieces. Maker's Place has my signature series illuminated book idea. And then actually today, for the next week, not sure when this will come out, but my second piece will be up for auction at Sotheby's, my signed Keith Haring magazine with complimentary NFT, and also the ability to choose a school or charity anywhere in the world. It's for me to create a mural. So we'll see how
All right,
that
if you're
goes.
watching this, go pick up one of his pieces and send him to Vietnam to come paint some murals out here.
Would love that.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Marco, again, thank you very much for your time. We'll put all the links to all of your socials, etc., down below here. That's it for us today. Thank you very much for watching, Crypto Paradise fam. And until next time, remember, as always, if it's not your keys, well, it's not your crypto. So stay safe out there. Swag me, baby.